Hello and welcome to the Product-Led Festival. Whether you are joining us for the first time or you're back once again for more specialist product-led insights, we're really pleased you are tuning in. Over the next 2 days, we'll be bringing you a wealth of insights from some of the most exciting movers and shakers in the community. Be sure to get involved in the Q&As and get your specific challenges addressed. Before we begin, we want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and partners for helping us bring this awesome event to life. If you want to continue the conversation and join a like-minded group of product folk, then our free Slack community is home to over 7,000 fellow product pros. So be sure to join them if you haven't already. For even more great content, check out our PLA membership plan to get unlimited on-demand access to all past and future festivals, exclusive articles, interviews, templates, and much, much more. For more info, head over to theproductledalliance.com. Now sit back, relax, and get your popcorn ready because you're in for a real treat.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Product-Led Festival. It's wonderful to have you joining us today. For those of you who don't know, my name is James Bowater, and I am the Events and Community Director here at the PLA. So it's wonderful to be welcoming you. I'll just make a few announcements, and then I'll go straight into our first presentation. So just a reminder, that if you're not already part of our Slack community, that is completely free, and it's a great way to access your peers, talk to you people who are in like-minded positions such as yourself, focusing on PLG, product managers. You can do that by going to productledalliance.com, clicking on the membership tab there, and you'll find a link straight through. We do have a paid membership plan as well that gives you loads and loads of extra stuff, so be sure to check that out. But it's completely free to join over 7,000, over 7,500 now actually of your colleagues in our Slack channel. So be sure to do that. Just a reminder, we will have questions during our sessions, so you can put those into the chat box at any point. You don't need to wait until the end. Stick them in there as you think of them, and we'll tackle them all towards the end of the session. I'll reappear and put them to our speakers in each of the sessions. Without any further ado, I want to dive straight into the content. So I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Abhishek Bhattacharya. And Abhishek is going to be giving a session entitled Using Product Sense to Devise Your Product Strategy. I'm really looking forward to this one. So I'm going to kick us off straight away and hand over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you so much, James. No pressure, man. How is everyone doing today? If you guys don't mind using the chat link and just, giving a light introduction for yourself, I would love to know where you guys are joining from. What's your role? Nobody? Interesting. Or am I looking at the wrong thing?
I think people are just being shy there. Hopefully we'll provoke some reaction through the session, I'm sure. But I think there we go. Abhishek saying hi. You can use that chat. Hi there, Jessica. I can see
okay, hello, Jessica.
Hi there. There's a slight delay on the timer as well, I think, Abhishek.
No worries. So Boss Abdul, okay, hi, Tiara, Kanchan. Oh, nice. Okay, so now people are warming up. Should we do some exercise warm-ups to get everyone going? But no, it looks like we have a very good group here. Awesome. I think awesome, Munich, awesome. Okay, nice to meet you, everyone. All right, awesome. I guess let's get started. I think folks are still rolling in, but it doesn't hurt to get started. I can go slow in the beginning. So morning, afternoon, evening, from wherever you guys are joining, welcome to this session. I would love to talk to you about whatever I know in the short span, but I'll try to do as much as I can. So let me just quickly, I'll get to the topic in a second, but let me just quickly introduce myself. So my name is Abhishek. I've been a product manager for 6 years, and which is almost the same time as I've joined Amazon. Product management was oddly enough not the role I went to Amazon for, and it accidentally happened for me. So I joined Amazon S3, and when I joined, we were very close to a major product launch at reInvent. And this product was called S3 Intelligent Tiering. And I was a business analyst on the team. And what I realized was that the algorithm which was being shown to the customers in a month and a half was absolutely incorrect. And within 2 weeks, I was in front of the director telling them, hey, this algorithm will not work. And then the next week, I was actually told to be in front of the VP, telling why the algorithm wouldn't work and what would be the right next step. And then there was no way for us to put together like a very perfect right algorithm and have everything locked down by November. So what we ended up doing, or at least me and some of the other folks ended up doing, was we tried to make some really quick decisions, try to take more ownership there, and just like literally revamp. And and little did I know at that point of time that I was like really getting a taste of this product management as a job function. I was in front of the engineers, working with them on how to code and how will this work, giving them user stories. I was like told to like go work with the UX designers to kind of design on how the customers would see the storage being transitioned. And that is when I knew that product management was really my calling. So I approached my manager and I told him that, hey, is it possible for me to try product management as an actual job? And he was absolutely supportive. And he arranged me to actually go to one of the other divisions at Amazon in retail, in customer service, where I could actually get a taste of product management. Customer service was a blessing in disguise. I was looking at the returns and the refunds and the promotional gift cards, all those policies and the spends by the customers. Also had a great chance to learn from some really long-term Amazonians there, who are some of them are still, my mentors till now. So I had a taste of like working on the services, working on the workflow, and then I wanted to try different flavors of product management. So I wanted to be an expert generalist, so to speak. So I designed slightly my own rotation at Amazon after that, and went to Amazon Business, where I wanted to like really understand how a platform is being developed. So how the multiplicative effects of platform come into play. And I had that experience when like me and the team designed notifications as a service where all the internal teams could basically plug in and then use the service to give the messages to the customer. And I was also owning the business account experience while I was there at Amazon Business. I had to try Amazon Mobile once, and thank you. Uh, and Here at Whole Foods, my focus was on improving the efficiency for a shopper who basically picks up the order when the customer places it online. There are a lot of challenges which goes on there. They only have a phone to look at what order you place, so they have to go through the optimal route. They have to use technology to scan the labels just to make sure that the weight is correctly captured. And throughout, some of the features really improved a lot of efficiency there. So during all these four stints, quote unquote, I actually ended up saving a ton of money at Amazon. And I was like, okay, like I've really tried all of this. Like, what is my next step? And I wanted to go to an area where I could now, be responsible for growth and understand really how growth comes into play. And that is when I switched to Amazon ads. Amazon ads has been like really an interesting space, and I've really like, tried to understand the ins and outs of it. I'm still trying to learn, to be honest. Ads is a very interesting industry. A lot of industry experience counts. And, I've been proposing some of the features there, which can lead to a lot of growth. So thoroughly have enjoyed my Amazon experience. Through some trial and error, I've like learned a lot about different areas, different strategies, different workflows, and how to have a point of view on some of the things. But I'm still learning at this point of time at Amazon. So that was a little detailed intro. Now we can go into the topic of product sense and strategy. So if you're a new product manager, or if you have been a product manager for a while, the term strategy, the term sense, they get talked about so much, right? And then there is a lot of material, podcasts, blogs, call it whatever. There's a lot of material for you to like explain and understand and get better at strategy or sense. But they are very, very important skill sets for you to have PM jobs. But to me, they are very interrelated and fairly straightforward. So in this talk, I wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit and specifically go into the point where why having a good product sense will help you really execute a strategy to perfection. So let's take a very, 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 definitions first. So one of my mentors in my one-on-one really came up with this one-liner, which really helped me kind of formulate the strategy definition for me. So he said that, Abhishek, you could build a lot of products, but it is when you know what should be built versus what you could build is, and you have a very solid point of view on that, is when you know you have a strategy. And if you dive deep into this statement a little bit, you'll realize that as product managers, we can literally build anything. Like you take customer feedback, if you're a customer obsessed, working backwards product manager, and then you can come up with a feature. But is that the feature which should be built? And when you really start to unpack that, you'll go into the territory of why. Your why will start becoming clearer and much more leaner. You'll have an answer to like, this is what should be built and here is why. And that is the essence of having a good strategy. Similarly, product sense is generally being right about the product changes. So now if I like again unpack this statement a little bit, product sense seems to me like you're already going in a certain direction, but then it is more about having those changes. And those changes you'll have to make based upon your internal assessment of a lot of factors. So like risk, your own biases, your own experience, your understanding of the customer to get to where you want. Right. So with this in mind, let us try to take a very, very basic, simple example to understand this. Right. This is a very oversimplified example. Let us say you want to go from North Austin, a place in North Austin called Round Rock, to a place in East Austin called Bastrop. Any time of the day when you try to Google Maps will suggest you like take I-35 south, and then they take I-71 east. And this is a very simple strategy which you should do, which you could do, like just to get to your destination. But if you do that same search on a Friday afternoon, you will see that your time to the destination would have doubled, right? And in this is a very clear information you have up hand. And then what would you do? In this case, if you don't want to spend time, you could devise a strategy saying that, okay, I rather take another highway, 130 in this case, and pay a little bit of toll and get to my destination faster. Right. And this is very essence of a strategy. You have a point of view on something and then you start executing on it. And let us now say that you're actually driving on Highway 130. There is no traffic, beautiful weather, your windows are rolled down, and then you are able to like see the sunny weather. There's no cars on the road. And then suddenly this happens. You start seeing in the rear view mirror, some ambulances going around, some cops going around. And then your mind is starting to take like, oh, something is wrong downstairs. Something is wrong downstream. Could there be an accident? Could there be something else? We don't know, right? And that is when you might actually change on your path to the destination and say something like, oh, I'm sensing a big risk here. Let me just take this alternate 290 from this 130 and get to my destination. Now, obviously, this is a fairly oversimplified example, right? And then we will get to more nuances in a bit. But strategy is mainly about having some sense of going to a destination. And sense is somewhat more like what are the different paths which you can get to your destination. So with this in mind, let us take some actual real life examples. So sorry, before I go that, so why is it hard in real life? It's hard in real life because first, the product management is basically taking products through a very uncertain environment. You hardly can see the road. And because that happens, that is where a lot of experimentation and all those things come into play. And more importantly, you can't really see your destination. You'll have to like get to your destination through this weather. And obviously there is no GPS in hand. So with this in mind, let us actually take some real life examples. This is a slide from, I think, September 2014. And this is where Tim Cook is announcing one of the most famous Apple products and one of the most famous lines. Just wanted to check, can anyone guess what product is he announcing here? Nobody wants to take a guess? Okay, no guesses at all. All right, no worries, that's okay. In this case, Tim is actually announcing Apple Watch. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Looks like I'm getting delayed responses. Yes, absolutely. Now, Now imagine, let's say that you are working at Apple as a product manager and you are tasked to design Apple Watch, right? How would you go about it? Like, what would be the first question you will ask yourself or to your peers? I'm going to wait for an answer here because I know they are delayed. What would be the first question? What problem is it solving? Okay, fair enough. All right. Any other guesses? Okay, fair enough with existing competition. Okay. Any other guesses? What is the goal? What is the differentiator? Okay, fair enough. Goes into the strategy. Why a watch? How different should it be from regular watch? Yeah, so you guys you have the right idea how big is the market. Absolutely. Absolutely. All these questions are fantastic. But the very first question and $1 million question in product management is, who is the customer? Yes, exactly. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, and if you have that very first question, and that is when you start to understand who are you designing this watch for, what are their problems, and then all those questions start to come into play. So in this case, when Apple launched Apple Watch, they had three different customer personas which they were targeting. So the very first one was they wanted to focus on a customer who is a heavy user of personal communication. So if you remember, Apple Watch Series 1 had all these heartbeats which you can share, all these sketches which you can make and then send it to the other person. The other person can respond. So that was what was talked about in their video talk for a long time. Their second use case was, could the watch be used for a customer who believes in this high-end fashion accessory, right? And then there was this amazing video showing the watch in detail with gold and then amazing bands. I don't know if you guys remember, but Apple even had a partnership with stores like Saks, Fifth Avenue, so that customers could go walk in the first day and then start getting their gold-plated Apple Watch, right? So that was another bet which Apple thought, could be the right customer for the watch. And then the third was like, okay, customers who have this use case for like using watch as a fitness accessory, right? Where they could measure the workout, where they could like see the number of steps they've walked. But if you notice carefully, in a 45-minute video, Tim Cook really doesn't even talk about fitness until the 37th minute. And that is where fitness was actually in the priority list for Apple as a use case. So with these three different customer personas in mind, right? These three different use cases, so to speak, Apple did actually launch the watch, and like let's wait it for the test to happen. And how was it received? Series 1, with respect to the fitness, did not have it. There were reviews saying that you can't do a lot of things with it. In this case, you can't swim with it. But it's great for someone who doesn't need those top end fitness options. So that was the persona. But customers wanted it. Customers kept clicking on the activity. Apple was able to notate with respect to the metrics on like, okay, customers really want this. The high end fashion accessory, we all know how it went, right? Like, there were numerous blogs on why it was so expensive. Some blogs said it was completely fair. There were very few sales for the high-end fitness accessory, but it was the fitness use case which really like jumped out. And by the way, if you do want to buy a gold edition of Apple Watch, like here it is on eBay where you can still buy it secondhand. So Apple doubled down on the fitness there. They realized that this is the path they should take in order for them to go and like really get down to their strategy in a perfectly executed way. And we all know that through a series of Apple Watch series, now there is just so much you can measure blood sugar, there are so much fitness, EKG and whatnot, and I don't even know what is in the Series 8 and what they've done. But this is like one of the best fitness tracker you can have on a wrist. So going back to the maps example, again, this is oversimplified. If Apple was the origin and variables were the destination, right? Like in this case, they tried out three different paths, right? The path which ended up working was fitness. In reality, the paths which work are like a weighted mixture of something. So it's not that they completely dumped communication. The communication also kept improving, but they have features like walkie-talkie and whatnot. But they realized that fitness was their biggest use case on which they could like double down and then get to where they wanted to be. So what was the end result of it? If you look at this graph, this is Apple's, revenue by product category, right? So you can see Apple's iPhone's big share here at around 70%, but this green line is the one where they started to introduce wearables. And it is through these wearables that the revenue started growing here. And obviously they introduced another wearable category called AirPods, which ended up like also enhancing their market share. And that is when Apple grew into the wearables business by focusing on the right strategy, by focusing on the right path to take, and then also doubling down on services like Apple Fitness Plus and some things which are around quite popular these days. So the next case I wanted to talk about is one of Amazon's, and I'm obviously restricted on what I can share here. So I'm just going to like go by the public information. Amazon Just Walk Out technology is like a store where you can go in and then there are no checkout lines. If you guys have tried it, it's a great experience. And if you haven't, I highly recommend whenever you do get a chance, try it out. When I tried it out for the first time, I felt like I was stealing something. And because I was just so used to the lines, and that is also the status of that is also the status of a lot of people I know. So in this case, if I look at this, right, the strategy was fairly clear. We wanted to get to a destination where we wanted to design a frictionless customer checkout experience. I did not work in that team, but when I say we, I mean Amazon here, and then the teams who were working on this problem. But if you break down the problem into components, right, like here there are three distinct things which you'll have to get really better at. One is to identify the customers. Second is to identify the items which the customer has picked. And then third is to send the right bill. In each of these three different breakdown problems, Amazon's team had to like really get better at doing each and every one of those mini strategies well. So for an example, in identifying the customer, this is the final output, but the teams tried multiple different ways of identifying the customer. Could the customer enter their Prime email? Could the customer enter their phone number? Could the customer get taken could we take a photograph of them and then understand where they are, and all sorts of stuff. But this is the final product which worked for them, because this was a way where we could link your identity to a Prime membership, and we know that what was the customer which was in the store. Similarly, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Amazon Go stores have meal kits. Meal kits is something which Amazon had to design on the fly. We experimented with a lot of options in this case, like having a separate wine tasting area, having a buffet of options. But in an 1800 square feet store, there was a lot to be fulfilled, and hence selection was very, very important. So the team had to come up with the right elements of like selections for the customer to basically have a very fantastic checkout experience. Similarly, sending the bill, right? If you have noticed, when you shop at an Amazon Go store, the bill doesn't really come instantaneously. The bill comes after a couple of hours, because all those backend processing don't have to be run synchronously. You could have them sequence and then send the bill to the customer at a later stage. That really reduced a lot of cost and a lot of things for the team. And those are the kind of decisions which actually ended up making these kind of strategies successful. So similarly, in this case, let's take our trivial map example, Amazon being the origin, Just Walk Out being the destination. In this case, they had to perfect all these three different paths to come up to a very viable strategy, right? And then that is how they ended up basically launching a successful store. Today, Just Walk Out is actually in a lot of different areas. If you have noticed, Hudson being a popular airport spot, you can actually just walk out, and then so are the other things, and it is expanding. So to me, this slide really summarizes a lot, and this is a timeless quote by Jeff B, right? And then it says optimism really doesn't mean to be unrealistic or shooting in the dark. It means that you're very, very focused on a path where you're anticipating the risks and then eliminating the risks if you want, until you have a strategy where you're genuinely optimistic about. And to me, that is like literally the essence of product management, having a sense of where the direction is, starting to take turns, make changes, and all of those things to get to the destination is basically an execution of a successful strategy. So how can we get better at both strategy and sense? First of all, if you are in the PM job function, make sure that whatever roadmap you're working on and your strategy are in alignment. A lot of times you will find, and this is what happens when I ask some of my mentees this question, they don't know what their strategy is, but they have a roadmap. So it is very important to ask, like, what is the direct strategy of your org? What is the strategy of the team you're working on? Has the strategy been communicated from the leadership tops down or not? And this is very, very important for you to know what is the destination you are chasing. A lot of strategy can also be unpacked from reading public facing documentations. Some companies publish annual shareholder letters. Those are like strategy grails. You can always read for public companies statements like 10K. They're very long, but then those documents can also like tell you what the company has been focusing on and what are their plans for the next 5, sometimes even 10 years. Right? So those would help you. Why? The ingredient to a successful strategy is always curiosity on understanding why the company chose that direction or why that particular feature was formulated that way. And that will like really start to sharpen your strategy nose. Similarly for sense, if you're a product manager and you have access to good experimentation being A/B testing here, you can take a lot of two-way door decisions. Two-way door decisions are reversible decisions where there is very little cost of getting wrong. If you don't go the right way, come back, change direction, right? Similarly, reverse engineering something is a very good way to learn how things work. Like start developing that sense of where the risk is. For an example, a week ago, I did a Venmo versus Cash App reverse engineer. Like, why does Venmo work this way? Why does Cash App work this way? And although they're very similar apps, but they're entirely different. And that is like those kind of journeys like start giving you a sense of why this one is popular, why this one is popular in a different way, and you start to get a feel for things. And the ingredient for sense is always, again, curiosity is the biggest ingredient, but being curious on why and how a particular feature was launched and developed would really go a long way in developing that sense. So for all the product management roles out there, like if you are in that area, the path to product management is hardly linear. Some days it will look like this, and on some days it will look like this. But I assure you, if you have the right mental models, if you have the right ingredients in terms of sensing, if you have developed that sense, and if you have a vague idea about the strategy, you will get to your destination. Perseverance is what will matter. Thank you very much. I know we are 3 minutes out. I would love to take any questions. If I've made any mistake or if I've missed something, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and give me feedback or ask me any questions which I am not able to do it today. So with that, we can open the floor for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Abhishek. That was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that. And I'm sure there will be questions. I think there's just a slight delay on them coming through there as you experience. So I did see a few in the chat throughout, but I'll just ask my question first while others are coming through. I was just going to ask you to elaborate on how you go about. I know you mentioned ensuring that the roadmap and the strategy are tightly aligned. How can people do that?
I think the very first thing is to ask yourself, do you know what strategy you're working on? And if the answer is no, which almost often is the case, it's always important to go to your manager or like your skip level and then ask them, okay, I understand I'm working on all these features, but how do they align with the strategy? And if you keep going up the ladder to get that answer, and don't stop until you actually have that. And if you don't have that answer from the leadership, you're probably going to be working in an area where strategy is not very well defined. But keep in mind, a strategy without a product sense, you will never get to destination. And no strategy and having a product sense is aimless wandering. You would want to do neither when you are a product manager.
Absolutely. I saw a few questions in the chat. So the first one was from Aaron. And Aaron said, what is one learning from your experience in different flavors of product management? I think that was relating to the different roles you've had within Amazon, focusing on different areas. What's the one learning that you'd take from all those different experiences?
Yeah, what I learned, Aaron, it's a good question. What I learned was that different orgs in Amazon actually have a different way about going things. So for an example, some orgs expect PMs to be in execution mode. and then 20% in the peer FAQ mode. Some orgs are like trend setters where PMs take the responsibility for the 3-year plan and then really working with that. They are more focused on the think big and the vision aspect. But what I also learned was PM product management as a job function is a function of experience and like really getting lean with your thinking, with your speaking, and with your writing. And the more you do that, the more sharpen your craft becomes as a product manager. And it is only with time, different experiences, that you will have that. So like we talked about strategy, right? One, as a product manager, you should also have an individual career strategy. What is your destination? Where do you want to go? What paths will you take there? What changes will you make? And then having again that sense to get to the strategy.
Absolutely. We're at time, but I'm just going to run over slightly to squeeze an extra couple of questions in. So there's one here
Sure.
from Jing that says, how do you resolve conflict in your team, requirements from your boss?
Yeah, Jing, that's a great question. The best way to do that is not to get sensitive or emotional about it, and really develop a lot of soft skills as a product manager. It is very important to not be completely humble and always say yes, because it is going to internally crush you. But at the same time, also not being like an ass and then just like being that person who comes from a point of view of authority and who knows everything. If you have a question, ask, but ask in the right manner where you are polite but firm, and then until you get an answer. And this is an art which requires mastering. Soft skills are very, 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 very important for a product manager to have.
Absolutely. Great. And the next question is from Naval. What are the key points to consider for product launch in VUCA world 9, volatile, uncertain, complex?
Oh, I've never heard about this term
No,
before.
I'm not familiar with that. I guess the question is, in a world that's changing, lots of uncertainty, very complicated, how do you kind of launch a product when you don't know exactly what you're launching into, I suppose, with all that uncertainty?
Product management is very analogous to uncertainty. If you already have a GPS, if you already have a Google Maps equivalent, you just plug in the destination and it will show you the best route, right? But that doesn't happen in product management. The journey is filled with uncertainty, and that is to me, that is like the essence of product management, is to enjoy getting to a destination when you don't even have an idea of the road which is in front of you. And through experimentation or through like different senses, you can actually get to the strategy you want, right? And that is where the thrill is, like, right, when you look back. For me as product managers, I look back and I see, oh, customer is getting this particular refund. I know I worked on that particular policy, and I know I worked on that particular technology. So to me, that is the art of figuring things out, and launching the right product, which is the right thing for the customer, is what gives me the satisfaction. So product management is always going to be in volatile and uncertain environment.
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying there in the chat. I can see that VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So now we know. Thank you for that. But yeah, I think we covered that one up regardless. So that's great. Thank you. And the next one was from Fede. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, Fede. How do you promote a good working environment to keep your team curious and focused on the vision?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Vision, I think you have to get the buy-in for the vision. That is one of the most important things, and you have to be very relentless until each and every member of your team, engineering leadership team, and product leadership team has bought into that vision. And that happens a lot at Amazon during the OP1 and OP2 planning cycles, and it could be different for different companies, right? Once the vision is locked in, everyone is bought in, and you, as products, you have to be somewhat of a salesman and then also be able to convince. Writing really helps. Writing your ideas clearly on why you are doing, and then what you are doing, and why is this the right thing for the customer, is really going to help you. So get very, very lean with your thoughts, and really ask yourself, do you believe in that yourself? And if that answer is yes, the next job is to convince everybody that they also get that buy-in. Once you have that, just make sure that the team you're working with, and especially engineers, are motivated. They have some meaty, challenging work in front of them, right? And then just don't give them cosmetic changes, stuff where they get bored easily, and then attrition starts to happen. A good working environment is also dependent upon your ability to understand the other person's needs, right? So why is that particular engineering struggling? What is happening with that person? And just being very compassionate and having that empathy to really put yourself in other person's shoes and really understand where they are coming from. If you have that, you'll probably have a good relationship with people, you'll understand them better, and then you'll be able to talk their language and also explain what you have in mind.
Great, thank you. So the next one is from Kurt, and Kurt says, how do you share product sense skills with your teams?
How do I share product sense? I one of the biggest things which have worked for me, and it could be different for different people, is that I actually involve my engineers on customer calls. And because product sense is not a skill which I want to pass on secondhand to somebody who is going to be working and building that feature or product, right? So I would have them involved in customer calls so they can really hear firsthand the pain the customer experiences, and also the art of asking the right questions. This way, if the engineers really understand what the customer pain points are, trust me, if your BRD or PRD is not even that 100%, they still know what is exactly the problem they are solving. And that really goes a long way. And product sense is not something tangible which I pass, but it can be developed collaboratively while working on this together. And for me, having engineers on those calls has been like a really, game changer for me.
Great. I think we're going to have to take this one as the last one, just so we don't
Sure.
run too much over time. So this question from Jing again, and she says, what book/program or radio or, what resources, I suppose, would you recommend for a product manager? I'm going to plug the PLA's resources. Do be sure to check them out at productledalliance.com. But I will let you make some suggestions as well, Abhishek.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually not very good at that, Jing, myself. So I follow very few. For me, it's not the volume of the content. The volume of the content is a lot on internet. It's the synthesis of that content and how it really makes sense is what is important. And to be honest, it's to an individual on like how they piece things together. For like, feel free to connect with me offline. I'm happy to tell you the books, programs, podcasts I read. But I would also love to know from this group, what do you guys think are the best distillate version of like these things out there? Like, is there a podcast? Are there some books which you guys would highly recommend? I would love to really read a good content where I can learn and things are fairly simple.
Great, perfect, and always good to learn from each other. So I'll just plug the PLA Slack channel again. We've got a recommended resources section in there too, so you can check that out. Unfortunately, we've gone about 8 minutes over, so I'm going to have to end this there, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for the time, Abhishek, and I know that was a session that's given a lot of people a lot of value. So thank you for taking the time, and thank you to you all for joining us for this session. We'll be starting another session in about 7 minutes time, so you've got time to quickly grab a coffee, and we'll see you there. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, guys, for listening in, and feel free to ask any questions if you have. I'm always available on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thanks.